Well, hello. Nice to meet you. I'm cognitive scientist Kim Sang-Kyun. I really enjoy making new connections with many people through lectures like this. Though I am an introvert with a capital I still like doing these things. Recently, I had an interesting experience on my way to a lecture hall. After the lecture ended, someone came up to me holding a black plastic bag. It was a bag about this big. She handed it to me just like that. She said, "I thought you might like it. What do you think it was?" It was still warm. There was a smell coming from it, and it was a familiar scent. It was a mung bean pancake from Gwangjang market. She said, "Professor, it seemed that you liked it, so I bought it for you." And I really did. If you go to Gwangjang market, have some pancakes, a bowl of beef radish soup, and a glass of magulli, all your fatigue from the day just melts away. Bean pancakes and beef radish soup. I think I'm happier than I expected right now. I go there from time to time, and sometimes I run into interesting people along the way. Once I had a gathering there, and I arrived a bit early. You sometimes can kind of overhear the conversation at the next table, right? There were 3 office workers, sitting together. I don't know where they got it from, but they had a department store gift card worth about $200 or so. They were making a bet with it. So they said, "Let's give it all to one person." But the way they decided was giving it to whoever has the saddest story. The first guy said, "I missed out on a promotion again this time." The second guy said, "I broke up with my girlfriend of 3 years. She dumped me." The 2 of them started arguing. I was wondering who would win. The third guy stayed quiet for a while and then said, "My hair is thinning." Then the other 2 just quietly pushed the gift card over to him, so nothing could beat hair loss. There were 2 things I felt from this observation. First, even sadness can become a competition. Second, hair loss is a serious issue. This brings us to today's topic. It's not about thinning hair. I'd like to talk about competition. Competition itself. We often say things like, "We need to build our competitiveness," or "competitiveness is important," quite casually. So I thought back to when I started competing intensely. And for me, I think it was in high school. You know those academic ranking systems. Sometimes, when I talk with friends or consult with parents, I ask them about this. So, is your child good at studying? Even to executives, after a meal, I'll ask this kind of question, and usually they say, "Oh, kids just study hard on their own." That's actually a way of saying the child is doing well. But what percentage or grades does it take for people to give that kind of response? There's a specific number. It is 11%. Being up to 11th place within 100 is casually considered doing well. In terms of academic grades, that's the second one. For parents whose children are in the 3rd or 4th, they just sigh and say, "Well, I guess they'll manage on their own." It's ambiguous, their stance. The 5th grade bracket is roughly the middle of the class. If there are 100, that's around 50th place. That's actually pretty good. If there are only 2 people, I'd be the winner, since I'd be 1st place. But most parents react by saying, "Oh, my kid just studies." They say that as if their child isn't doing well. It's really harsh, isn't it? If there are 100 students, they see only the top 11 as winners, and the other 89 as not. Even as I say this, I think I lived that way too. When I was in high school, the subject I really liked was math. I liked all my math teachers and was close with them. But once, when I was in my 2nd year of high school, I think, I studied math really hard, and in the national mock exam, the nationwide rankings were posted for each subject, quite brutally. Out of over 1 million students, I ranked 2nd. And that's something to brag about. Then my teacher asked me to bring my test paper. Then he took what I had solved and showed it off to every class. He even bragged about it to the principal. It made me feel proud. But then, the teacher said something else. "Sang-kyun, you could even take the 1st place." At first, I was happy that my teacher believed in me, but at some point, I never managed to get 1st place even once. My scores started dropping easily. If you drop by just a few points out of over 1 million students, your ranking can suddenly fall to 10,000th, 100,000th, your score just plummets like that. Maybe that became a bit of a burden for me, because even yesterday I had a dream where I was a high school student. But you know how dreams don't make sense logically. I'm a professor at Kyung University, but I was attending high school in my dreams. Then I got the test paper, but I couldn't solve any of the problems, so I was really stressed out. After I woke up, I thought about it while driving here earlier. Why does this dream keep coming to me? I think it's not so much that I was shocked by my teacher back then, but rather that feelings of inner guilt and regret have lingered somewhere inside me, even now that I'm in my 50s. But honestly, I think I carried these feelings with me when I entered university. Since 2007, I've been working at a university, and universities also evaluate professors very strictly. They assign grades like S, A, B, and C, and even adjust salaries a bit based on those, and announce the results. I think S probably stands for special. But one day, they introduced a super special. If you're in the top 3 or 4%, out of 1,000 people, they'll grade you super special. It's like the grades for premium beef. So, of course, I looked up for the details. The criteria said you have to publish a lot of papers. So even after becoming a full professor, I wanted to get the SS grade. So I wrote a ton of papers. That's how I got graded super special a few times. But strangely, after achieving it, even though I got a bonus envelope, I didn't really feel happy. I started to wonder about this. Why am I not happy? I spent the whole year writing papers on weekends and working late into the night just to get this. I'm someone who enjoys creating new things. And while this is also a form of creation, it's a different kind of creation. I like connecting with many people. But with academic papers, the connection is only with other scholars. The public doesn't really read academic papers, and there's no way children would read them either. So I started trying to create other things. Fail or not, I tried writing novels, writing books for the general public, and even making board games. So this is the board game I ended up making. I created a set of cards called Mayfly, which organizes the 25 desires that humans have. There are several of these cards. You shuffle them first, then you place them face down. During workshops for students or executives, I tell them to pick cards. Since you randomly draw 7, the probability of drawing the one you truly want, the one you like the most, out of the 25 cards is about 1 in 500,000. But interestingly, after the students or executives pick their cards, the next thing I tell them to do is to trade them. Since the chance of picking the best one is so low, I tell them not to just peek at each other's cards secretly, but to show them openly and trade with each other. Some people really get into trading their cards. Someone might say, I absolutely want to have a beautiful appearance. They'll even give away their 10 billion one card and everything else they have. They'll even give up friends, all in pursuit of that one card for beautiful looks. But interestingly, about 30% of people, especially corporate executives, don't trade their cards at all. So I would ask, are you okay with this, sir? And he'd reply, I like these 7 cards. Then I say, but there might be something even better there. I'm fine with these. Just these are enough. Then I'd ask, do you really think you'd be happy in life if you achieved just these 7 things? He'd say something like this, doesn't seem like a life not too bad. To look at it positively, it shows someone who accepts what's given to him and works hard to achieve the things within. But on the other hand, there's that sense of emptiness I felt the moment I finally got the approval stamp. When it comes to whether or not that was what I really wanted, honestly, I still have a lot of doubts, at least in this regard. So, the key word I want to suggest today is not competitiveness, but rather that we should develop a different kind of capability. I've defined that word as exploratory power, made up of 3 syllables in Korean. The power to explore. I'd like to share 2 practical ways to put this into action. The first is that you need to explore yourself. A couple of weeks ago, I had a gathering with some of my former students who graduated from undergrad about 10 years ago. It was in Mangwon-dong. That day, my students told me that it was the first time, out of all the times they'd had drinks with me, that we made it to a 3rd round. So I ended up going home almost completely out of it. When you drink, you end up talking a lot about work. Now that they're in their mid-30s, I asked them, why do you work at your company? Why do you work there? It's always the same answer. Professor, I have to make money. Of course making money is important, but is earning money really everything for them, considering all the stress and time they pour into their jobs? So then I asked, if you happen to have well-off parents, or suddenly inherited some land and got 10 years worth of salary, would you just do nothing and take a break? That's not really the case, is it? I think we rarely ask ourselves why we're doing something, or what parts of it we actually enjoy. We just rush into things without thinking. I've lived that way myself, for a long time. So, the second thing I want to talk about, following on from this, is that if the first was about exploring yourself, The second is about exploring the world. As I started writing novels and engaging in various activities outside, I realized that I really enjoy creating something unique and new, even if it means getting criticized for it. Even with something like this SEBASI talk, if it gets posted, there will probably be negative comments. It does hurt. I'm an introvert and quite timid. But the value I place on what I love is just that great. That's how it is. Another thing I really enjoy is making my lecture materials look just right and really impressive, exactly the way I want them. But the problem is, while I work hard on organizing the content, I just can't draw. I absolutely can't draw. But as there are so many generative AIs these days, I've tried them all. Seriously, when it comes to drawing tools. But I picked a few and work hard to create drawings with those. One of my students said this to me. Professor, but if you just download everything from Google or Shutterstock like before, you could finish the work in 2 hours. Isn't it a bit much to spend 4 hours drawing? From a competitive standpoint, yes. If someone can create similar quality materials in 2 hours, and it takes me 4, then I'm just not competitive. But does that really matter? I'm happy. I have ideas for drawings, but my hands are clumsy that I can't draw them myself, so having it draw for me is just wonderful. When I put up my lecture materials, I feel satisfied with them, and I get excited to teach, and I think that makes my students even happier too. If, by any chance, my Kyung University students hear this story later, I should probably ask them whether they're actually happy or just doing it for the money. But from what I feel, the more I discover things I genuinely enjoy and incorporate them into my lectures, the brighter my students' expressions seem to become. So, there are 2 things. First, you need to explore yourself, and second, you need to connect the results of that with your exploration of the world to create your own unique path. I believe that's what's important. So we usually call this competitiveness. The word competitive comes from the word compete. But what does compete really mean? It actually comes from the Latin root competer, and there's an original meaning to it. Even up until before the Industrial Revolution, it meant coming together and running forward together. But when we talk about building competitiveness, honestly, I don't think we were really able to gather together and run forward while looking at our colleagues like that. If the professor next room had the lights on writing their thesis, I'd think, that person isn't going home. I'm not going either. But just because we both don't go home doesn't mean we're running forward together. I actually wished that person would just go home. So we really weren't running together. The power that allows us to run together isn't the competitiveness of hoping I win and the other person collapses. It's about me finding my own path and the other person finding theirs. And instead of running separately, we look at each other, find ways to support and help one another, and connect. I believe that this is the essence of exploration. Honestly, I think frames are incredibly powerful. Right now, through school education and our daily lives, we are very much trapped in the frame of competition. I hope we can break free from this. The frame of competition confines us to a world where only 11 out of 100 people can be happy. Yet even then, we live with the anxiety that the next day we might become one of the 89. I hope that instead of focusing on competitiveness, you will embrace the spirit of exploration in your hearts, journeying through life joyfully as if dancing, and seeing your peers not as rivals, but as companions. I believe that all of us, as the SEBASI family, are capable of doing just that. So, thank you all for hearing me out.